Hello and welcome to the Finding North podcast. My name is Florian.
And I am Fahim Florian.
Join our Sunday conversations where we discuss breaking news of the week around big tech and share our thoughts around all things business, careers, and how to find your true north in life. Yeah, so this is episode 3. It's another beautiful Sunday here in London in quarantine. Fahim, how are you doing?
Good. I'm good. Weirdly enough, I've been, now that this is our third one, kind of been looking forward to doing something on a Sunday. Usually my Sundays are fairly unproductive as they should be.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've got this thing going. What did they say? If you continue to do it for 30 days, then it becomes a habit. Is that 30 episodes or is that 4 episodes?
That would almost, no, when did we start it? Like 2 weeks ago, right? So it would be, we still have a bit to go, but yeah, I mean, 30 episodes, that I think it becomes a habit before the 30 episodes, I guess. If we get to 30 episodes, we definitely have made it a habit, but I guess maybe 6 or 7. Or maybe if we continue doing it post this whole quarantine thing, then it might be, because at the moment, right, we started mostly because we said now it's a good time because we have more time at our hand. But if we then continue doing it afterwards, which for me at the moment, I think we probably will, then it's definitely one.
Unless we find better things to do with our lives on a Sunday,
And recording a podcast, editing it and putting it out there. No, it's also folks have asked me this week, so it's so how's it going? How are the numbers looking? Are you thinking it's going well? I'm to be honest, the only thing that is sort of defining success for me at the moment is just to record another one, right? I mean, that's the whole point, being consistent and just putting it out there, just continue doing it, and then we'll see how it goes, right? We said it's going to be mostly unscripted, and we'll wing it, and then along the way we'll see what works, what doesn't work, what we enjoy, and whatnot.
Yeah, every time we do the edit, obviously, well, I must say you do the edit. I just
it's not much effort.
Is it weird that you listen back to yourself? Because I every time I do listen back to us talking, we're probably just doing it right now, listening after we recorded it. You kind of still laugh at your own jokes, and
you do.
and yeah, you feel like you're reliving the moment in a weird way.
Yeah, I think it's also sometimes how did you even come up with that thought? Why did you say that? And because a lot of it is just unprompted, right? It's not like you think about every sentence that comes out of your mouth. You just you just go with the flow of a normal conversation, and then you listen back to it. You might have forgotten some of the things you said. Okay, interesting that I said that. Yeah,
definitely. So how has your week been?
It's been a short week here in the UK. So we had the Monday off, so it was only Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I mean, the weather wasn't that great, so I think that took a bit of a toll on the mood in general. I think that what always happens, right? If you had a really nice weekend of great weather, and then the normal London weather comes back, it's just so yeah, it was again a bit of a I mentioned it last week, bit of a roller coaster, but not for the reasons last time because of the podcast. I think maybe now we are in week 6, I believe. I think it's days 36 for me in isolation, and I'm still very positive, keeping myself busy, but I think now it starts to become real that okay, well, we've just extended for another 3 weeks in the UK, right? The whole lockdown situation. Germany now is easing their measures as of Monday because they say they sort of have it under control. The US still continues to look pretty bad. So you just wonder, really, how long is this gonna go on for much longer, right? And then like what are the bigger impact is that going to have on your life down the line? You know, are you going to go back to the office anytime soon? Is the general working culture going to change? You know, how long can I actually tell myself that I'm fine with it? You know, I don't need to see anyone. I can just like, you know, Zoom with people or, you know, like talk with them on the phone until a point where you really start, you know, feeling the impact of this social relationship isolation situation. That was a really long word. And I think that potentially, you know, at one point your positivity sort of not runs out, right? But like at one point you're like, okay, I keep drinking my own Kool-Aid, but at one point, you know, you also start realizing, well, I'm actually might be affected by this as well, like a bit, you know, mentally and all that. So I think that sort of started potentially last week, and it's fine. You know, I think as long as you're aware of it and it's not gonna let you down, then it's all good. And in everything, there's always also, you need to just focus on the positive news and the positive things that happening, you know, at work and in your private life, and, you know, just keep being grateful that your family is well and not you know, affected by that, and then it's gonna be fine. But yeah, I mean, it's been the last 2 weeks have been a bit up and down, but like generally still the trend is still going up. You know, it's just like a couple of bumps along the way.
I think it's similar to my end. I think the momentum of doing something new or new routine after a while, you know, I think, you know, the next couple of weeks is going to be really crucial for many people, I think, because it's been a while being working or being quarantined in this manner. I don't know. To be honest, I know a lot of people are thinking like some countries are easing measures. I know we've in the UK extended for another 3 weeks. I don't know. I know I think some people need even a fictional deadline or a milestone, saying, look, let me just get to that milestone, even though I know it may not mean anything, but I just need something to work with, right? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm just taking each day as it comes.
Yeah.
While you were talking, actually, a thought came to mind, and I would love to just maybe debate this with you. Is, you know how many of us who are maybe a little bit more digitally savvy and probably make use more of online resources, so e-commerce, you know, the Amazon Prime and whatnot. You know, maybe during this quarantine period, maybe our consumption or usage of those services has been quite higher than normal, because you know, you need to get stuff and you can't really go out, although you could argue we never used to go out anyway for those type of things, right? But do you think that a large part of the population who were not using those services, but they've just now had to use it, right, even though they may have been against the idea of, you know, getting a large package for a very small item. Do you think now that they've experienced it, they've seen how convenient it is, do you think those behaviors will stick? You know, I know some people say that, you know, once you go, you can't go back. I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. I'm a big fan and follower of Scott Galloway. You know him, right? The founder of L2 and like great podcast, Pivot, and he what he has been going on for the last couple of weeks in this whole crisis is the notion of, you know, what happening at the moment is just accelerating things that would have happened anyway, right? So coming to your question, right? E-commerce has been growing like tremendously over the last 15 years, right? And especially over the last 3-4 years, it's really, you know, penetrating every level of society, demographic, and so on, that everyone starts buying online, even though like physical retail is still massive, right? The growth rates are quite substantial. And so on that notion of acceleration, I think that, you know, it would have continued to grow anyway, e-commerce, right? People buying more online, it's more convenient. You have more, you have access to a wider variety of products, better pricing, all that sort of stuff. And I think what it does right now is like a lot of people, a lot of parts of the, if you think about like the innovation scale, like you have your early adopters, and then you have like the long tail, of that audience. I think a lot of those people who, were still hesitant and so on to do it. And some of them, they have very good reasons. They want to support local businesses and so on, right? It's all good. But now they're sort of forced into the situation, right? They now need to buy online. And I think what it then does now that they have to do it, and they might be reluctant to do it, but they will do it anyway, because as you said, we need stuff, right? And it's in many cases the only way to get access to those things. And then they experience, if the experience is good, obviously the delivery and the execution with whoever they're gonna shop, right, is still gonna matter most. But if the experience then is good, you just potentially added another, person to that thing. And what it then does, something that would have maybe taken, to reach a certain level of penetration and volume of global e-commerce, over 3 years, now it might just be accelerated to like a year and a half. It's just because it forces people to do more of that.
I think so. I think you're right. I think that's a really good way of putting it, where it was going to bound to happen, but this crisis is just accelerated us as fast forward that particular threshold. I think I was thinking whether, so what does this mean? Does this mean that we will live also, not just say e-commerce, but even the whole health and fitness industry, in-house, Peloton, the Joe Wilkes stuff, etc. That's also on the rise. So it's weird how, for a long time, the society has been telling us to get out, to get fit, right?
Yeah.
But now, all of a sudden, staying in has actually probably got more people to start, taking their health a little bit seriously, right?
Yeah.
So I think these are all these impacts. So what does this mean then after this? What does the new normal mean?
Yeah.
I'm thinking whether, of course, I don't think people are going to be staying in, but the reason to go out will be very different. So I think the behavior would be is that you would go out for an experience. You would go out for entertainment or leisure. You're not going to go out to do your things that are commodity things. Would you go shopping unless you enjoy shopping in an aisle and you like, and it's therapeutic for you? That's definitely you should do it. But I think
let's take the fitness one, right? So just because there's a virus, that is not really changing anything, right? Well, people can't go to the gym, but the people who have not gone to the gym before, are they now going to start working out from home? Probably not. The people who have been going to the gym and they went out, to whatever fitness club or yoga studio, they will probably continue doing what they've done, but they now need to do it at home.
Yeah.
So I think the question is more like when, and that's something that I've, and because I have like a bit of a personal interest in that, I've been thinking about like, okay, in 6 months time from now, right? When hopefully this whole, the whole situation of lockdown and will be better, and generally the situation will be better. What are people going to do? Are people, and we spoke about this, I think in one of the previous episodes, are people just going to go back to business as usual? Are people just gonna forget about all of this and they're gonna go back to their gym and they're gonna go back to like, working out as they used to? Are people suddenly gonna wear hand sanitizers in the gym, and every time they use the dumbbells, they're gonna wipe it? Are people actually gonna say, well, okay, I still go to the gym, but only for certain exercises, the rest I'm going to do at home? Our gyms generally going to have a really hard time because it's this space where you like, it's a contained space. Everyone comes in, everyone reuses the other people's equipment. You know, is something
yeah,
happening in people's brains now that actually, you know, they want to go, but they like, yeah, but maybe not yet, you know. And then they like, but I'm paying whatever, you know, in London, you know, the gyms here like 80, 90, 100 quid a month to then not utilize it, so they cancel it, and then they need to find other ways to work out, so they then maybe, you know, do it at home, go to the park, go for a run, or find other.
yeah.
So obviously I can't, I'm no, like, you know, I can't foresee the future, but I somehow feel, because it's you know, the
Something's been ingrained, right, in
yes,
our
yeah,
mindset now, that logic, even if things are safe and logically make sense to
yeah,
do, you've kind of been scarred by this experience. And we said how, you know, before, how this may pass on to the next generation a little bit, you
mm,
know, about, you know,
mm.
just
And
for a better, I think, you know,
and actually
hygiene wise.
I also want to make the connection to last week's episode, and that actually just popped in my mind. I think it's also about the whole notion that we discussed last time that we want to cover this time, about building a habit, right? So if people now going through, I mean, we're 6 weeks in already, so
Yeah,
it's going to be
yeah,
another
yeah,
6 weeks. So the 30 days are going to be easily covered, right? So
yeah.
if people suddenly start working out from home a lot, right, and they build this habit of starting working out from home, you know, maybe that will just be enough for them to say like, hey, you know what, I really like, as long as my mind is in the right place and I have like
Exactly, it's convenient, it's
two piece of
cost
equipment.
effective. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yeah, exactly. I think you become really innovative, thinking, look, I don't need all the equipment, you know. I
yeah,
think with a small sets of things I can work out all aspects of my body. And you know that, you know, the whole using your own body to
yeah,
build muscle,
calisthenics,
that's,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah,
without needing
I've
to,
seen the greatest things, like people using two bar stools and then like a broomstick in order to do like a pull-up bar. And the Gymshark has a great ad that I keep seeing on Instagram for whatever reason, where a guy literally uses a pot with two very sturdy handles to do push-ups on it, like a push-up
yeah.
wall and all that. So I mean, it's obviously,
Oh,
it's crazy the amount of content that people put out there at the moment on Instagram, with like, you know, all the sort of the fitness influencers or the people who are influencers in a broad
yeah,
spectrum, and now everyone
yeah,
is like, my home workout routine 10 minutes, you know. It's like, it's,
yes,
and
yeah.
that again, this might be another accelerator for people to say like, you know what, I don't need to leave the house. I don't need to pay money. You know, I don't need to have those weirdos, you know, maybe women. I don't need those weirdos to stare at me in the gym. You know, I can just do it from the
Yeah.
safety of my,
What's happened,
you know,
you, and you know, like you said, I think, you know, when you mentioned that, um, you know, the folks that were not exercising before, will they start working out? Question mark.
yeah,
The folks that were active, they'll definitely find an alternative at home. But I think you can't deny that there's been more fitness awareness, right? I don't know whether we're, because we're being targeted by those ads and whatnot,
yeah,
but generally speaking, there's a more heightened awareness of fitness at home, right? Even if you're not an active um, fitness person or whatever, you've come across the Joe Wilkes stuff. You know, you're coming across your neighbors. You know, people in their
yeah,
gardens doing a thing, bringing communities together. And you know what? That may have an impact and may not. Who knows? But I think you're right. The question of whether gyms in the future will have the same relevancy the way they used to, question mark. Maybe they need to reinvent themselves, maybe in a different manner, you know, the gym in your home,
yeah,
or the fitness instructor in your home.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It I mean, it's interesting, right? Like the Peloton obviously has done something as one of the big companies that really changed sort of like almost a part of that fitness landscape, right? Like, who would have thought to do spinning in their home? You know, like spinning, we always used to be this like, I'm in a room with 30 other screaming, sweaty people, and it's probably not, for many people, not, doesn't look like the most pleasant experience. But if you were in it, that was the whole point of doing it, right? And now suddenly people sit at home in their living room and they still have the instructor, but it's literally like this on a screen, and they know there's other people around the world doing it at the same time. So there's still a sense of community, but so we will see how this whole how the whole digital transformation topic will change the fitness and personal exercise landscape, because I think it's not been one that has yet been deeply I'm using the deeply
disrupted.
I mean, there's the D2C companies around fitness apparel like Gymshark, obviously, massive, fast growing UK company, I think for the last 3 years or something like that. Peloton is a good one, and there are others, but in general it still feels like that a gym experience, like a workout experience, is pretty much like I don't know, like 15 years ago when I started going to the gym. So interesting. Don't know how we got into that topic, because some people will probably laugh now because they think we made this up for me to talk about this. But it's an interesting one.
But one, I know we can't predict the future trends, right? And it's random guess, whoever thinks. But one data point we can look at, so in China, where the thing started, Wuhan, they've eased the restrictions, right? So folks there, from what I'm reading anyway, people can go out. I think that they can't go out of the city, but within the city they can go out and go to restaurants. So even though the restrictions have been lifted, nobody's going to a restaurant. Nobody's going to a crowded space. Now, I don't know, is that more of an initial shock thing? But you're right, I think people are going to be very rarely, I think going forward, one thing's going to happen for sure. Next time you're in the office and someone has a cold, you're going to be like, go home. You know what? Don't be a hero. Because if you come in with a cold, you know how it was perceived before, like, oh, look at that person, or even they're sick, they're coming in, right? That perception is going to be like, now go home.
What the heck are you doing? Like, you're putting the business at risk. Like, it's like, like
you're a liability,
No, it's a good point. I we've probably all been guilty of that, where you feel like, okay, I'm not feeling well, I probably should just stay at home, but you still go, and like, it's actually not about me, it's actually me putting other people at risk and infecting them with my cold or my flu or whatever. So I think that's definitely gonna be a thing. I mean, we can go on about this for forever, and I think we probably will every week. We will somehow cover one of those topics. I think the whole working from home space is also going to be, I don't even know how that's going to turn out. I spoke with quite a few people over the last couple of days, and like, people come to a point where it's like, honestly, I've reached a point where I don't even can imagine anymore going back to the office. Like, because initially it was like, and it depends on your living situation as well. But like, there's certainly, if your living situation can, you feel comfortable being at home and you have like a nice study and it's quiet and all that sort of stuff, right? There's certainly people who like, the time wasted going to work in the morning, coming back, and then sitting in the tube and paying the money, and then in the office you get constantly distracted because, like, well, it's either super loud, because most of the offices nowadays, we all have open floor and all that stuff, and then you have a chat there and a chat there, which is nice, right? But like, I think, for me at least, I don't know about you, I'm so much more productive when I'm at home, because I'm thinking like, okay, you start working, you get your stuff done, and then you're done with it. Like, it's like, not throughout the day you constantly get sort of distracted by, oh, I could have a chat with that person, or let me see what's going on over there. It's just like you just go about it. So
Yeah,
it will be interesting to see.
definitely. I think for me, I've always been a big advocate of you can't replace physical human interaction, especially like if it's something new, and the cliche whiteboarding session with a small group, although I'm rethinking that, to be honest, because some of the collaboration tools now that are available, I mean, even this thing that you and I are doing, right? Now that this is our third one in, and when we do our fifth, fourth, whichever one's in the future, I really feel like I'm there. How much of a difference would it be if we were sitting together? Like, okay, it would be maybe 10% better. I don't know, 20% better. So I think it depends on the subject that you're dealing with. But I think it's definitely going to change.
Yeah, I don't think
people are definitely more productive. 100% agree.
I think so too. Yeah, I think there's always like the one or two black sheeps, who like literally take advantage of the situation, and they're not gonna do anything unless they just like because they're not being observed or anything. You can get away with things.
Well, in a weird way, because there is a risk of redundant in being caught and things like that. I think everyone's got themselves into gear. so the company's like, oh my god, we're more productive than
ever working from home. It's just because people are scared losing their job. Yeah, it's a good point.
Cool.
Yeah.
So one thing I know we've the things that we we talk about business and things. One thing I wanted to just pick your brain on, because I can't understand why, is last week the stock market was going up.
Yeah, man, like I have no explanation for it, and because because I told you I've invested quite a bit like 4 weeks ago, something like this. Then I realized, okay, I think I was a week too late because I missed like the big dip. Then I said, like, okay, you know what? Why is it going up now? It doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to go further down. So actually, I sort of like liquidated all my positions. Breaking even, because I want to have the liquidity to then wait for the actual big hit to then go in again. And I've been waiting every day ever since. And it's like the chart from it goes like there's a correlation in between the number of infections now and the related death to like to the stock market. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Last week the US announced the highest unemployment numbers since what, like the 80s or something?
Ever.
Oh, ever.
Have you seen the chart? The chart is like an exponential. The data point for 2020 for unemployment is so high, it's like they had to rescale the chart to even make it fit.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So I would have thought that, okay, you know what? If it went up by 5% or whatever, maybe there are folks they've shorted the market, now they want to take their profits, so then there's some buyers want to come in, but I think overall it's been jumping like 20%, if I'm not mistaken, 15 to 20%. Now if you were to look at a 20% gain, in a normal sustainable business, right, if you were to look at the average company, to get 20% increase in their revenues or whatever can take like I don't know, 3 to 5 years. So imagine getting that gain within a week.
I have no explanation for it. I'm not even going to try to come up with any sort of theory around it. Like everyone who I follow who I consider someone whose advice I would listen to. You know, people I know and people I just like know, you know, from basically the internet, and just like listen to their podcasts, reading their blogs or whatever. Everyone says it makes no bloody sense whatsoever. We are supposed to go down to the worst recession and depression probably of the last 40-50 years, considering, you know, the impact that whole thing has on the employment numbers, on the revenue numbers of like businesses, you know, how many industries are actually affected by it, and the stock market goes back up. So you know, obviously I don't want a massive, I mean, it's hard to say, right? You don't want the markets to massively crash, because that means people's livelihoods are at stake. At the same time, you know, like you can profit from it to some extent, right? So it's hard. Like it's probably like an ethical question to answer, which let's not go into this right now. But I still think the big hit, the big unprecedented, like, you know, 2007-8 like crash is still to come. I'm almost 100% certain about it. That's why I have not gone back in yet. And you know, I might have missed it, and, you know, to be honest, I will not be unhappy about it if I have, because that means we are actually gonna be fine. We're gonna get out of this quite quickly, and that's, you know, that's something I care so much more about, like any additional money I would have made of some stock gains. And I wish that will be the case, but I somehow feel the market is gonna be a big correction coming.
Definitely. I think it's interesting how you say, in terms of, look, you've looked at your fundamentals, and your fundamentals tell you that it should go down and should not be going up, and you're basing your decision on those fundamentals. And if it goes the other way, right, and you didn't benefit from it, you can still sleep well at night, right? Because you're like, okay, the market did something crazy, no logic to it as well. Even if you've missed out, you can live with it, you know. And I think this, you know, this brings me to, as you were saying that, I was reflecting on how relevant that way of thinking is to any life decisions that you make. You know, sometimes if you stick to certain values and principles you have, and you make a decision based on that, even if it may hurt you in the short term, you know, you can still live with that. Whereas the opposite is quite devastating, you know.
100%, no, it's gonna be interesting to see how this turns out. But yeah, I think the key takeaway here for me is, either way, I'll be sort of happy with it, but I'll be happier if I missed my chance to invest at the right point. We all get out of this as quickly as possible. The economy recovers, you know, less people, you know, gonna suffer from that whole thing. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping for. So maybe to just I want to go back a bit to the topic of habits, right? Because and it's sort of related to actually the stock market topic and many other things we've been talking about. Because I, for example, have made it now a habit that I wanted to create for years, is to actually really keep track of the stock market on almost a daily basis, right? Because I was always interested. I always knew I want to understand that whole ecosystem, because, you know, if you're lucky enough at one point in your life that you have saved up a bit of money, you know, and for my own consciousness, been able to, you know, leave some of the mental DNA behind from where I'm from, where it's like all about saving money, not necessarily investing, you know. So, and I'm actually really happy to, you know, invest and put money into stocks and so on, and be in there for the long term and so on. But I never really felt like I had created a habit of following the market and stocks, and it's long enough to then have the knowledge that I need and the insights in the market that I feel confident to do it. So I've started doing this like on a daily basis again, like I think because we have more time at our hand, and a couple of other things. And we said like we want to discuss this week a bit, and I think we should just do that for the last 10 minutes, so we're not gonna go again for too long. So you mentioned last week that a quote, or you referenced the guy who said like that army general, or
making your bed
every morning, that's sort of the way to start the day, because you start your day with a win. So
and even if you've had a crap day, at least you come back to a nice bed to sleep in.
Yeah.
I was going to throw it back at you because I'm keen. You said that you've got your morning routine, waking up early and whatnot. I think this podcast, and maybe whoever's listening, that they'll probably be also interested in what is our daily habits, whether we have them or not. So I was going to throw the question back at you, because I know you've started doing something of a morning routine. So why don't you take us through that?
I mean, I wouldn't say I have found my perfect morning routine yet, but for the last 2 years have been experimenting. Oh, actually longer than that, 3 years. I've been experimenting with a lot of things, right? And sort of this isolation thing now was another chance to really try out something and really build that habit, because there's very little things that can disrupt your morning routine at the moment, because you're just at home, right? So it's not that like, today I have this early meeting at 8 o'clock at the other end of the city, so I can't do it or whatnot. So I think at the moment it's just a really good time to start. And that is, it's not just me. A lot of my friends, and I see that with so many people, have actually started to really change things in their life. And I'll go into that a little bit later. My morning routine. I used to really had to set an alarm in the past to wake up, and I'm going through sort of phases in my life. Sometimes I have a really hard time getting out of bed, and sometimes I just wake up. I feel somehow this is for me also related to the time of the year. I generally have a much harder time during the dark time, cold time of the year, the winter times, to just be full of energy in the morning and just get up. So that helps, because the last couple of weeks have been much better. So ideally I start my day with waking up like half an hour before my alarm rings. And that at the moment means, and I know people gonna think I'm making this shit up, but like this means at the moment 5:30 to 6 when I wake up. I don't always
now that it's in the public domain, you may in a weird way hold yourself more to account going forward now.
I did that with the smoking last week, and that was deliberate because I want to put it out there, and I'm still going strong, right? So good with that one.
5:30.
But like the waking up, I know it for sure. I don't always then immediately get up. I'm not snoozing or closing my eyes, but sometimes I'm just then taking like 5-10 minutes to sort of lay out my day in my head. Things I just wanna, things I think I want to do.
Is this while you're in bed, or
yes.
While you're in bed, so that's like you wake up, you're gonna be like, what am I gonna do this today?
And I can do this in during days, and that's just been the last couple of weeks been amazing, where I wake up and I'm actually awake. Because sometimes you wake up and you're like, and then you need like a bit of time to actually, until the engine starts running smoothly. At the moment, I wake up and I'm awake, so I'm conscious, and I can gather my thoughts and like actually plan. So I it's not long, but I'm just trying to lay out my day. Maybe I'm checking my emails or my notifications or something like that, if something came up overnight. And then I get up, and then the first thing I do, usually I go to the kitchen and I make myself lemon water. So that's something I started doing. I'm not going to go into the health benefits of it. Like, people can Google it, but it's really good for you. To start.
Cold or room?
I do.
Okay, cold. Okay.
Just like, half glass like this. First of all, everyone knows starting your day in the morning, first thing you should do, you should drink 1 or 2 glasses of water, and I just add some lemon to it, because it's really good for you. So read it up. Then I come to this room here, which is the sort of study workout room. And regardless of the day, even if I'm going to work out in the afternoon or in the evening, or if I want to go for a run, or back in the days, go to the gym, I would do 4 exercises, 4 rounds, 20 reps, right? And that can be anything from like push-ups, squats, sit-ups, burpees, jumping jacks, whatever, right? And it's not necessarily to stay in fit or get pumped. It's just like to do this in the morning. And it doesn't take long. It's like 15-20 minutes usually. It's before shower, before eating, before turning on your laptop. It's just like, for me, it just energizes me, right? And you already then, and then by the time it's anywhere between 6:30 and 7, let's say between 6 and 7, you've already done all of this, right? And then you take a shower. That to start the day like this, it's a game changer, because like at 9 o'clock, 2 hours later, I then had my coffee. I already feel like, damn, like, okay, I haven't even started working for my 9 to 5 job yet, but I've done all of this already. Like, okay, the rest of
you've
the
got
day.
2 hours.
Yeah.
So imagine, so two hours, you're gaining back 2 hours a day. Yes. Every day.
Yes.
I'm sure there is that study that says that how many hours in our lifetime, how many hours do we sleep, how much do we, so if you add it up, 2 hours a day is, if you take all the necessary things like eating, cleaning, sleeping, 2 hours is quite a big percentage of the available active hours, right?
You're gonna laugh, just to quickly interrupt you here, right?
You've done the study, yeah?
I've actually I've tracked my own time spent last year over a couple of weeks, and I actually put in an Excel file everything. I do that with my spending, I sometimes I sometimes go crazy with this, and I overdo it, right? And then I need to like, okay, come on, like, you're not a machine, you're not gonna run on like, I even at one point had my calendar set up from waking up in the morning until going to bed with like
15 minutes planned, every 15 minutes planned.
Everything was planned. I was like, okay, you're going nuts here, right? But I actually did. So what I did is I checked just out of my entire time that I have available, what I spent on what activity, to see, okay, where am I wasting time? Where am I investing my time? What do I like, what not? And it just turned out that, the sleeping part is just, it's a significant part of your life, and I don't suggest that people don't sleep, you're not going to perform during the day if you don't, but if you manage to catch like a solid healthy 6 hours of sleep, 6.5 hours sleep, actually, it's enough, and it gives you back so much more time. As you said, like my favorite time now is actually the time, when I need to go to work. It's like usually an hour, 1.5 hours. Now it's like 2 at least, where I sit here, and it's quiet, nobody's, very little people's up. There's no one's messaging new emails, nothing is coming up. And those quiet 1.5 hours in the morning, it's my favorite. It's the favorite time of the day.
Do you think that the night before, there is some prep? So your day really starts the night before. So do you have a strict routine going into bed and ensure that you get the solid 6.5 hours?
I think I'm better with waking up than with going to bed, to be honest. Like the time that I go to bed is still, it's anything between like 11, where I would like to go to bed, to like 12:30. You know, I usually don't go to bed later anymore, but like there's the odd day where I don't manage to go to bed before 12. But yeah, I mean, the evening routine starts to kick in. I realized a while back that reading half an hour, or like, it doesn't even need to be half an hour, because half an hour can be very long reading at the end of a long day, at the end of a long day. But like even just 10 minutes of reading, and specifically like fiction. You know, reading fiction before going to bed, not like another self-improvement book or something like that. You know, that stimulates the brain, but something that where you can escape into, you know, another world. It just helps me to you know, to reduce the noise in my own head, because I'm still like processing things from the day and work and whatnot. So yeah, but like, enough about me. I've been talking now for ages. So I know, you know, that you started you started like your running routine, and that's been coming, you know, probably should have done it like you know, a few years back now.
Time ago.
But at that point, like, what was it, end of last year, or
so
what triggered it?
So I think you know, I know we're sort of overrunning as usual on this podcast, but I think very similar to and I think maybe I'll describe it in terms of if it helps anybody, maybe how to form habits based on our experience, right? And there's lots of, and we don't claim to be experts in this area, but what's worked for us, right? I think deep down inside you tend to know what you need to do, that there's something missing in your life. Like, you know, that there needs to be some sort of a trigger that says this thing, you need to fix this part of your life, because, you know, we talked about the pillars of life and maybe health, you know, you could be doing more, but that alone is not enough to motivate and do something about it. You know, in terms of what you described, Flo, you went through a journey before now you got the routine going, and now you're kind of enjoying it. So I went through something similar, where I knew that my general health and fitness could do with a boost, and I just picked running, not because I necessarily liked running. I always thought of people that had the runner's bug like a little weird. I'm like, how can someone get addicted to running?
Yeah.
Right.
I still think that.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to change your mind. Right. So for me, I just gathered lots of data first, you know, so how much time do I actually spend on active exercise? And you just like note it down. Even if you don't do it, because when you get enough data set, you're like, holy crap. You know, is this the amount of time that you waste, or the opportunity to do something like that? So that is not the trigger, but that is the moment where I think for many people the penny may drop, in terms of, because you think you're not wasting time, or you think that you're active, but when you actually do the data tracking,
100%,
reality hits you in the face.
Yeah,
right?
you see it like black and white, or yellow, green, and purple on your pie chart, and no one can argue about
no one
that.
can, because you took the data point. It is yours, so that the source is a trusted source. Blah blah blah. So with the running, I just taught myself. I said to myself, look, I just want to have a goal of doing 5K in under 30 minutes. Right. I think, speaking to a few runners, I think that's a decent pace. So I just forced myself, looking at the data points that showed me that I need to do something about this. So that was the big, you know, wake up moment. And then I just basically went into a treadmill. So in a gym or anywhere, right, you can run outside. and I just started just doing 1K. The goal was to complete 1K. It doesn't matter how long it took, you know? So I was just doing that every day and just noting my, tracking my performance, etc.
Yeah.
I started off doing my first 1K. I think it was 18 minutes, and that's like walking pace. You know, I just somehow just dragged myself over the line. But the biggest thing for me was not that I couldn't do it faster. It was me getting myself into the location or on the treadmill to do it, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I started 1.5, 2, etc. And you realize when you build enough data points and you start to see the trend, you don't want to break the chain, you know? So you're like, look, I've been doing it for the past 14 days. I don't want to, and there is this habit that I think that's called the chain method of building habits. So what happens is that you tell yourself of doing something on a routine, you do it consecutively, so you build up a chain, and then if you miss one day, your chain ends. You start from one again.
Yeah.
That in itself is a big psychological thing that I think helps you. What I did was I added a bit of salt and pepper to that. So I said that if I break my chain, I will punish myself by doing that activity 3x. So I would do 3K just to punish myself. So next time I would remember not to break the chain. So and at the end I did my 5K a month ago, 5K in 29 minutes. So I've achieved that. Now I want to do 10K in about an hour, maybe an hour, 10 minutes. And now, to be honest with you, I use those data points and goals to help me build the habit, but now I actually enjoy running.
So I think
I now do it to just get away from it and clear my head.
I think there's actually two very, very interesting things in there in order, you know, to if you say like, okay, what are sort of some of the success factors of building a good habit? I think number one is what you described initially with visualization, I think, which always works for me. If you write it down, right, or you make a plan and you keep creating like a track record that you have ideally visible on your wall. I don't know if you can see it. I have my yearly calendar there where I put in things, you know, because then I have it in front of me and I can see it every day. You know, it's not like on my phone hidden somewhere. Sometimes you just need to have it in your face, or, you know, and then visualizing it makes it real for me. That's one thing. The other thing I think that is very smart to do is, rather than trying to say like, okay, I'm become a good runner now, right? I'm going to try to run now every day, like 5 miles or 10 or whatever, right? Because that's sort of what you did, you gave yourself little success stories, you know, incremental success stories. You didn't just go out, you know, I'm gonna lift like 300 pounds now or something, you know, I'm gonna run a marathon in 6 months. You're just gonna say like, no, know what, tomorrow I'm gonna run this, and I'll see if I can do it. And the next day I'm going to do it again, the next day do it again. And then you go and you slowly go up. So there's a small chance of you getting pissed off because you don't achieve that goal quick enough, because you actually set yourself small incremental goals rather than the big one. So I think that's very, very
I think
interesting.
one thing to add to that is what I found is you need to invest in the, how do I put this? I don't know, use work term like process, right? So what do I mean by this? So in your case, you know that when you wake up, you do this particular routine. You don't have to think about it, right? So I also started to go gym, and for a long time I've been going on and off, you know, and what allowed me to really break out of that mold is that for a very long time, I used to go into a gym or use any equipment or whatever, and then and not knowing what to do. So you turn up at the gym and then you decide, what am I going to do? And you're just like loafing around saying, oh, let me pull this, let me pull that. You know? So I think when I focused on a particular routine, then, you know, you're in autopilot mode, right? Just like you said. So when you wake up, you're going to have your lemon, you're going to have your 1.5, you know, glasses of water, and you're going to have 4 sets of XYZ. There should be no thinking involved.
Yeah.
Whenever you wake up and you then think about what shall I do, especially to get you going,
Yeah.
that's like the worst. That's where your brain
actually, I
says,
think that actually is gonna probably prevent you from waking up in the first place. If you don't have like, if you
because you have to think about, if you have to waste your valuable, they say like in a day you got your brain can make like, I don't know, X amount of decisions a day, and you waste 5 of them on what to wear, what to do, what to have for breakfast. So I think
yeah, very good, very good. So I think on that note, and come to our podcast, I think that our own learning for this is, or for me, is like I think why I enjoy doing this so much is because we have not set ourselves an unrealistic goal of like in 6 months time we're gonna have so many people, subscribers, or and so on. But the actual success, I think, for both of us is just like, we would have continued talking anyway, but now we do it in this format. We share it out. We're not really worried about any sort of like numbers, but we want to build this habit by week by week, just keep doing it, having a good chat, and then putting it out there, and then build a habit around this and see how it goes. And maybe this one will just build another part of another layer in our life, that becomes a habit that we can maybe leverage for something else. So
definitely.
Cool.
Good stuff. Well, I think this is probably a nice place to wrap it up. That was a good summary.
So I think I'll read us out, and then see you guys in the next one. So thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode and you're listening on YouTube, please give the episode a like, hit the subscribe somewhere here, share it with your friends. If you're on Spotify, please download the podcast, share it also with your colleagues, friends, or whoever you can think of might enjoy this. If you have any questions you would like us to cover in the next episode, if you want to be on the podcast or for anything else, reach out at findingnorthpodcast@gmail.com. That's findingnorthpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you. Have a great week. Stay healthy, stay safe. Until next time. Cheers.
Peace.